Hey guys, and welcome to Quality Shot. We are going to be going through day three even. Gosh, tell you what, time flies when you're watching good Test cricket. So day three of the Sri Lanka versus England second Test match at Galle again. So going into this day, Johnny Bairstow and Joe Root were both in. Johnny Bairstow on 24 not out and Joe Root 67 not out. England had ended day two on 98 for 2. So in a pretty, I would say, balanced situation, and it was a case of seeing how those two got on. Sri Lanka, though, I thought bowled pretty well early doors. Joe Root, as he has done throughout this whole series, playing spin very, very well and sweeping extremely well. But Bairstow fell very early on to Embuldeniya. What do you guys think? Were you a little bit disappointed? I guess, actually, you guys won't be disappointed. I think an England fan would be disappointed. But Embuldeniya getting that early wicket of Johnny Bairstow is a great start to the day, surely. What do you think, Aaron?
I think Sri Lanka started really well. Again, it kind of raises question marks about Bairstow being in the England Test side, like we said before in previous videos. It almost feels like we're going back a few years. They definitely started off really well to get rid of Bairstow and Lawrence. Jos Buttler did well to bat a bit late on, but I felt like Sri Lanka sort of started to lose their grip on the game a bit towards the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I agree. So when Johnny Bairstow fell, they were 116 for 3, and then Dan Lawrence fell pretty soon after on 132 for 4. Again, Embuldeniya just causing havoc pretty much on day 3, and I think he has been a pick of the bowlers, and we'll touch upon him in more detail, but picking up 7 wickets I thought was very, very impressive for him. Let's then go into Dan Lawrence. So Venu, Dan Lawrence obviously performed really well in that first Test match, getting 70 odd. Here, though, unfortunately undone by Embuldeniya. He didn't look very comfortable at the crease. Just very good bowling by Embuldeniya in the end. I mean, he got Bairstow out with a decent ball that straightened. Similar kind of dismissal with Dan Lawrence here as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was just a quality bowling from Embuldeniya, and I thought he bowled really well today. And he kind of got Dan Lawrence playing forward at 1, and he just nicked it off to slip, I believe. So good bowling. Maybe he should have taken a note out of Joe Root's masterclass, just to show maybe how to play that ball. Maybe he could have swept that ball. Maybe he could have played it on the back foot. But yeah, I think but he had a promising first Test. I think he was looking to hopefully score some runs in the second innings.
Yeah, I think he seems to like to play on the front foot, like I think most English batsmen will. Joe Root is the anomaly where I think he does like to rock on the back foot a bit more. When you're taught growing up to play, you're not really taught. The way he plays spin is so effective, but in some ways it's not the conventional way that you're taught to play it. But in Sri Lanka, with that extra bounce and turn, like it's very effective. So I think Dan Lawrence is probably just in that category of being inexperienced, and to kind of pick up and try to play like Joe Root, maybe for him it just wasn't going to work, and it'll be a good learning curve for him, I think, going forward, and he'll try and rectify in the second innings, I'm sure. But after that, Jos Buttler and Joe Root put on a good partnership, nearly 100-run partnership, just under. But to be honest with you, to me, that was a pretty vital passage of play, because they'd lost 2 wickets pretty early doors, and then Jos Buttler came in and he put on I would say it was a pretty impressive 55 from 95. He hasn't looked in particularly good form in the first Test match especially, but he came back to a little bit of form here. Ended up falling though to the debutant Ramesh Mendis, which in a bit of an unlucky fashion. Aaron, first of all, what do you think of Jos Buttler's knock?
I think it was really good. It came at the right time for England. Jos Buttler, when he plays in Test, doesn't really sort of have that kind of air of invincibility like he does in the shorter order format. So even for that position, his shot selection was quite good. He's quite unlucky to get out playing that type of shot. like we said, Joe Root is just so effective in playing the sweep, whereas it's interesting to see some of the players like Crawley, Sibley and Lawrence, the less experienced ones, are really struggling in these conditions. But it was a really good knock by Butler, but again, quite unlucky to get out in the way he did.
Yeah, 100%. Really unlucky the way he got out. Just short leg. I think the fielders will say they got a little bit lucky there. But fortune favours the brave. And I think Sri Lanka, in a way, throughout the whole day, tried to be relatively aggressive. And when you've got runs on the board, it's a lot easier to do it. But I think the fact that they still managed to try and push wickets was good. Embuldeniya ended up bowling 40. He's bowled 41 overs so far, which is a lot for him. So I think they need to maybe be careful and manage him a little bit. I know he bowled extremely well, but you just want to make sure that you don't injure a bowler by bowling. I know he's a spinner, but even then, that's a lot of overs for someone to bowl. Sam Curran, though, came in. It's an interesting one because he smashed, I think it was Pereira for 6 over long on, and it was huge 6. But then Embuldeniya, again, came on with, I think it was the new ball, actually, and had one which just kind of skipped on and rushed Sam Curran and nicked again to slip. And that seems to be a theme of the day. Embuldeniya just rushing a batsman or really bamboozling them, as Benny likes to say, and just tricking the batsman into playing the wrong line and length. Benny, what do you think? Disappointing that Sam Curran didn't get more runs here, considering... Look, I mean, he's playing the IPL and he's got runs. It's a different ball game, Test cricket, I think. But he has played on pitches similar to this. Do you think at 7 he needs to be doing a bit of a better job there?
Yeah, I agree with you, Fizz. I think he needs to do a better job, and he needs to stick in there, for his captain. And I think Bess did a really good job, which we'll probably come on to in a bit. But yeah, I think he could have played the situation better. But he did stick in there and had a bit of a partnership with Joe Root, which was important at that time.
Yeah, 100%. I think touching on Dom Bess, so 32 from 95. It's not that 50 odd that Joss Butler scored, but I think the fact that he's come in as let's be honest, he's classed as a tail ender at 9 or 8 even. That's when the tail starts. And he helped the tail wag a little bit there, and that was pretty vital for them at that time. And by the time he got out, they were 333 for 7, so they'd put on a 71-run partnership, himself and Root, and he would have given Root a lot of the strike there and tried to as well. And of course, Root ended up batting fantastically well. What do you think of that partnership? Do you think, in terms of from a Sri Lankan point of view, Arangan, you said the game got away from a little bit in that period of play, I think. Do you think Sri Lanka could have done anything differently there? So I think they brought on Luckmal and Avitha Fernando to bowl a little bit. And Dom Bess hit a couple of fours. One was a bit unlucky from Luckmal's point of view as a bouncer, and he kind of just top-edged it over the keeper. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think they could have approached it slightly differently to try and get Bess or Root out in that period?
I think it's... I think with Sri Lanka, we sort of say from time to time, it comes down to generally mentality. And sometimes they do struggle a bit to manage a game from time to time. So we've seen it in the first test in terms of the way the batsmen approach the game. And now sort of in the second, in the way that they approached it. Dom Bess has done really well. But when you've just taken Curran out playing sort of a rash shot, they really need to be a bit more aggressive. On the other hand, Embuldeniya has bowled a lot of overs, but at that point in time, I think they could have just pushed a bit more. Joe Root didn't look like he was going to get out, to be honest, and he basically just battered himself into form. So I wasn't too surprised once he passed 100 that he would just keep on going. But again, yeah, I think it's disappointing for Luckmal because when you see him coming in, he's more of an experienced seamer than the rest of them. So you'd expect him to at least take a wicket and do something. But I guess it actually shows how well Anderson did on that in the first innings, considering he's taken 6 wickets, and you see Embuldeniya who's conceded about 100 runs to take 7. It just shows how tight and how well he bowled in that first innings.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think it's worth noting as well, I guess, that on day 3, a Galle pitch is is known for breaking up a little bit more and giving more to the spinners. So I think James Anderson having a fresh pitch would have given him a little bit of an advantage, not taking away from that 6 foot, because I think it was a very, very good spell of bowling from himself. But yeah, I think that wouldn't have aided Luckmal at all, I think, as a seamer. But the spinners clearly getting more turn than the England spinners, especially on today as well. Interesting looking at the scorecard, because Tiramane took 5 catches of Embuldeniya's bowling. So all caught at a slip. So it just shows how well Embuldeniya was bowling, right? That he kept on challenging that outside edge. One was LBW, another was caught by Fernando, which was from Bairstow, which I think again was caught, I think it was a second slip or gully. So again, it was a nick. So he, as a spinner, it just shows that he bowled extremely well in these conditions. Vinny, before we touch upon Joe Root, because I think Mark Wood got out playing a pretty shocking shot, tried to slog sweep Embuldeniya for 6 and just nicked it to slip. So not really much to talk about there. Before we go on to Joe Root, how good was Embuldeniya today? Do you want to sum up and kind of give a little rundown of that?
People would say Joe Root was a class above all the batsmen in England's side. You could say the same for Embuldeniya. He was a class above all the Sri Lanka bowlers. The fact that he bowled, 41 overs so far this innings, 6 maidens, and 7 wickets. Very, very impressive by the young spinner. And just, I like the way he goes about his cricket. His action's really nice and fluid. And he gets good flight, good drift. He's got everything really. And very, very impressed by him. If he didn't take those 7 wickets, Sri Lanka will really be struggling. So fair play to the young man.
Yeah, I agree. I think Dural Pereira got some turn. He tried to, at times, I think, bowl a more attacking line to the batsman. He was a little bit unlucky, maybe not to pick up 1 wicket, but you'd expect him to, ease some of the load on Embuldeniya, but it seemed like a lot of the expectation was on him getting wickets. And I think Sri Lanka need to look at that and think, okay, well, how can we maybe rectify that in the second innings when he does need to bowl? Because he'll be key, in that second innings, because it'll be turning even more. But you need some other people to chip in, I think. And Ramesh Mendez chipped in with 16 overs and picked up a wicket. He looked good in spurts, I thought, but he's obviously not a frontline bowler or spinner, and he, obviously is a batting all-rounder. We've seen as a batting all-rounder. And as 2 off spinners in Mendez and Pereira, I think they're not challenging the right-handers as much. But with Sam Curran, for example, as a lefty, they probably should have had more of an impact there. Okay, let's touch upon Joe Root, because Embuldeniya, as Venu just said, had an incredible bowling display by him. And actually, before I go on to Joe Root, it's going to be really interesting to see how well he does in conditions outside of the subcontinent. I think I was checking with Arangan before, and we saw that he only played 8 test matches. He made his debut in 2019 against South Africa, which is a hard place to make your debut as a spinner. And obviously we can see here that he's coming into his own in home conditions, but it's going to be interesting to see whether he's able to adapt to conditions outside of Sri Lanka. For example, in England, for example, or Australia, wherever else it might be. I'm not sure what Sri Lanka's next tour is, but it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure they'll pick him after these performances and hope that he can do something similar. As you said, he's got variations, so that should aid him in other conditions. It's just about application. So definitely one to look out for. He's only 24, so he's got a long time left as a spinner. Joe Root, 186 off 309. Another spinning masterclass from a batting point of view anyway. Arangan, how impressive was he? And a thorn in the Sri Lankan side at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, it looks like they don't know how to get him out. He's been batting really, really well. I think before this series, and maybe for a little while, I personally, maybe it's an unpopular opinion, I was personally beginning to think why Joe Root's place in the side perhaps wasn't a little bit more questioned, to be honest. You'd see him in big series like the Ashes and he didn't really contribute, whereas at the other end you've got Steve Smith basically scoring for fun. I think it's come at a really important time for him as well, especially when England are trying out new batsmen, and for him to get 2 back-to-back centuries, where he's being looked at as probably the best and the senior batsman in the England team, with out, you know, when you don't have Ben Stokes or someone else maybe to steal the limelight. He played really, really well. He's a really good player of spin, and once he sort of found out that he could score through the sweep, it was pretty much game over for Sri Lanka. If anything, he sort of got himself out just because he was absolutely tired at the end of the game, and got himself run out. But yeah, I think if Sri Lanka are to win this game, they will need to get him out early.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was very unlucky on his part, considering that he came down to the pitch of the ball, got there, just flicked it off his hips, and you know, Fernando, really, really good fielding from his short leg, just good pick up. And as you said, Aaron Gann, he was just knackered and didn't manage to get back into the crease. And that's fair enough, considering he just scored 186 and faced 309 balls. So he's been out there for a hell of a long time. And you could see, I think it was wearing on him a little bit. And I think you saw that also in that double ton. He started going more attacking, also because he's batting on the tail, but probably because he realised, look, I'm running out a little bit of fuel here. And he's always consistently had kind of back niggles or problems, I think, historically. So that probably doesn't help batting and like that for so long. But incredible knock, as you said, unbelievable. Another masterclass in how to bat against spin. Swept the ball extremely well. I can only remember one sweep, which I think was against Pereira, where he went to sweep it and he missed the sweep and it went under his bat. But apart from that, I think he swept extremely well. Reverse swept really well as well at times. And I just think he is showing here that, like you said, Aaron Gann, maybe I don't know if there are question marks, but I think people were beginning to talk and say, look, Joe Root, I think he averaged 48 last year, but he hadn't scored a single 100 in the whole of the year in Test cricket. So people were beginning to think, hold on, is he about to enter a really bad dip of form here? But instead, he's gone the other way. He's proven everyone wrong, got a double 100 in his first innings of 2021, now 186 here. So he is in terrific form. And I said to Venu before this, actually, that if he can take that form into India, then he will score runs. Of course, I think India's seamers are a lot stronger potentially than Sri Lanka's. But if he can get past that early doors on these types of pitches, which won't be very long, you're talking, you know, especially if the openers do their job and stay for longer than they have been, then, you know, he'll be able to get, you know, he'll be coming in, say, with 30 overs gone, ideally, at least, and then he'll be able to face spinners pretty much straight away, if not soon, with an older ball, and then he comes into his own, because I think spin at the moment is something that he's playing very, very well. From a Sri Lankan point of view, 339 for 9, Venu. Obviously, England are going to look to push to that 381, but it's going to be tough considering Leach and Anderson are going to be in. Sri Lanka surely are going to be looking to now bowl them out pretty much straight away and restrict them to... So they're trailing by 42 runs, but they won't really want them to pick up any runs, but at least have a lead of 40, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think Sri Lanka definitely took that initiative during the last 20 minutes of the day when they got Bess out, then Wood, and then Root, the most important wicket. He's back in the dressing room, so they'll be glad to see the back of Root. So yeah, they'll be looking to get Leach and Anderson out early tomorrow, and hopefully maybe back for 2 sessions, and give himself a day and a bit to bowl England out, and hopefully be interesting to see if the wicket will start turning more. I think that's what people are predicting to happen. But yeah, Sri Lanka are looking to get these out as quick as possible, and lead of 40 will come in handy. And yeah, that's what they'll be looking to do tomorrow.
What kind of lead do you think they need, Aaron Gann? If they bowl England out, in day 4 it will be. Then he's saying to bat at least 2 sessions. I think they might need to bat slightly longer than that. Personally, I think maybe 2.5 or 2 and a bit sessions. But what do you think in terms of a lead do they need for them to, basically have a very good chance of winning this Test match?
It's going to be difficult. I think the 40 runs will come in handy if they get an early wicket, and if they don't lose their first wicket early. I think sort of anything over the 240 mark. closer to 300, maybe. I would say. I think just in terms of England might struggle in terms of how they're going to bowl to Sri Lanka. I wouldn't necessarily see their seamers having that much joy. And I'm not sure necessarily Leach and Best will be good enough like Embuldeniya to keep bowling wicket-taking deliveries. I feel like whereas Sri Lanka can quite easily just start with Embuldeniya and put him in against Sipli and Crawley and sort of take a few wickets early doors, I don't think England necessarily will.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, yeah, England definitely, openers wise, are looking pretty fragile at the moment. Let's see how it goes. I think, personally, I think if Sri Lanka get anything over a lead of over 200, so that means they get kind of 160 plus in that second innings, which I'm sure they will. That's what they'll be looking to get in the innings total. They'll be looking for at least over 200. So I think, as you're saying, I think that'll be 240, right? I think anything over 200 there as a lead is definitely doable, considering the spinners that Sri Lanka have got in terms of, if you look at Embuldeniya, and also England have not played, apart from Root and obviously Butler, I think, in that little burst there. I do think they're looking like they're going to struggle if they're going to bat on day 5. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Venu, how do you see tomorrow going then?
Just like today, it's going to be another good day of Test cricket, and I think it's going to be a close one. That's for sure.
Yes, very, very competitive Test match. This is what you want to see, right? This is what you want to see. We didn't really have it in the first Test match. There was a hint of it when the England started to collapse in that second innings, but they only need to chase, I think it was 76 in the end or something along those lines. And here it looks like Sri Lanka put it together a really, really good couple of days for sure. And England are going to have to come up with the goods. So let's see. Hopefully Sri Lanka can pick up an early wicket, because I think that's probably the best thing in terms of, carrying on this competitive nature in the Test match. We don't want the England tail to wag too much, and we want a result as well. So to get a result, that I think Sri Lanka need to pick up that early wicket, and as Venu said, bat at least 2 sessions, I would say. Get a decent lead on there, and then just go for it, attacking wise. So hopefully we see a great day 4. Thank you both very much for being on. Really appreciate it. Good to get a Sri Lankan perspective. I can provide a little bit of a England perspective, and I know Venu and Aaron can as well. And yeah, it was really good speaking to you both. Stay safe, guys, and we'll see you probably tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow anyway. And yeah, looking forward to a great day of cricket.